Hello, gang. Hello, hello, hello. And for the benefit of those who are watching on YouTube, and by the way, I thank you. You are noting, Michael, you're looking rather dapper today. You're not wearing your normal July Lacoste shirt, but rather you are in a white Oxford cloth and sporting a navy blazer with some red pinstripes. Like, what's up? Are you up to something today? Oh, yes. Yes, I'm up to something today. And all shall be revealed later today in social media and certainly on tomorrow's program as well. Yeah, some really cool stuff that I am sworn to secrecy over, or as they say in the biz, embargoed until about 2 p.m. Eastern time later today. How's that? How is that for a podcast and YouTube tease? Today's poll question at Smerconish.com, the Tuesday poll question: will Jeffrey Epstein cause a significant and permanent rupture in Donald Trump's standing with his base? Yes, I am going back to the Epstein well for the second day in a row. First, however, thank you to my friends at Parks Casino and Play Gun Lake. Summertime means the beach, the boat, the lake, the great outdoors. Enjoy casino action and sports betting wherever you are all summer long with the Bet Parks app and the Play Gun Lake apps. Live betting on sports is better on the Bet Parks app and Play Gun Lake. You can bet player performance and game props and more. And whether your favorite team wins or not, there's always another way for you to win with Bet Parks and Play Gun Lake. They're the only that I ever use and recommend to all my friends. Check out these new games on the Bet Parks app: Huff and More Puff, Mega Fire Blaze, Dwarves and Goblins, the Flintstones, plus Money Horse. It's all good stuff, and blackjack and baccarat and all those hot online slots. For a little something different, why not try playing with a live dealer right on your phone or tablet? You've got to be 21 and in PA, NJ, or Maryland for Bet Parks. You've got to be 21 and in Michigan for Play Gun Lake. You love to play, you play to win, you bet Parks. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. So, why am I asking again about Jeffrey Epstein today? Truth be told, it's because 38,956 of you voted yesterday, and I couldn't keep a telephone line open on the program. Everybody wants to buzz about this. Maybe that's got something to do with the summer. I don't know. The news cycle not being all that interesting. A lot going on. Don't get me wrong, but not as much fodder for barbecue conversation as what do you think about the Jeffrey Epstein story. Yesterday, I asked, do you believe Jeffrey Epstein had a list of powerful men involved in his alleged sex trafficking operations? 87.95% said yes, 12.05% said no. Of course, a lot of the speculation. I heard it from callers yesterday. Not only is there a list, but Donald Trump's name is on it. And that's why he's doing this about face and all of a sudden saying to the media, like, why Jeffrey Epstein? Why are you asking? Who cares about Jeffrey Epstein? Are people still talking about him, even though he and his supporters, ginned up all the interest in this? Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, JD Vance, all of them. In fact, there's an editorial in the Wall Street Journal that begins this way: Donald Trump has traded in conspiracy theories for years. Barack Obama was born in Kenya. Ted Cruz's father had a link to JFK's killer. The 2020 election was stolen. Migrants are barbecuing people's pets. He seems to think this is good show business with appeal in certain niches of a fragmented culture. Yet now he's upset that the Jeffrey Epstein theories he fanned are proving hard to tamp down. And to that end, there are two great pieces, both contained in the Smerconish.com Tuesday newsletter. One is from Jonathan Chait in The Atlantic, and the other is from Philip Bump. It was actually yesterday's Washington Post. But the Chait piece in The Atlantic, titled "Why Trump Can't Make the Epstein Story Go Away." Like, why is it so hard to shake this one? It begins this way: Donald Trump's ham-fisted reversal on his promise to release a secret list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients has accomplished something long considered impossible by virtually everybody, including Trump himself. He has finally exceeded his followers' credulity. The Epstein matter is so crucial to Trump's base, and the excuse offered is so flimsy that the about face has raised questions within perhaps the most gullible movement in American society. And then further along, the Chait piece says the MAGA endorsed conspiracy theory that Epstein was blackmailing powerful people with tacit government support was not crazy. Unproven, yes. Impossible, no. The crazy part was that this theory had been assimilated into the pro-Trump worldview. Epstein had been Trump's buddy. Trump had publicly acknowledged more than 20 years ago his awareness of Epstein's preference for young girls. Epstein came into the custody of the Justice Department and died in prison in 2019 while Trump was president. Trump said, "I wish her well," of Epstein's lieutenant, Ghislaine Maxwell, an odd thing to say of an alleged child sex trafficker. In a rational world, the Epstein saga would have been an obsession of Trump's enemies, not his supporters. Like everything is upside down in this case. And then one other part from Chait, talking about Donald Trump, and recently in that Saturday Night Post, blaming this on Obama and crooked Hillary and Comey and Brennan. Chait writes in The Atlantic, not only did this new line blatantly contradict the repeated promises to release the files that Trump's allies had made, but it was not even internally consistent. Barack Obama had concocted the Epstein files to smear Trump, but Democrats had refused to make them public for some reason. And because the radical left lunatics had kept them secret, Trump needed to do the same thing. It speaks to what I said on radio yesterday, and I referenced it on television on Saturday. It's that old OJ business. If you just stop for a moment and analyze sort of on a continuum what would have been necessary to frame O.J. Simpson for a murder he didn't commit, none of it makes sense. It's completely illogical. And that's what Jonathan Chait is bringing home in his essay for The Atlantic, which I highly recommend. And then Philip Bump addresses the question of, why the fascination with this by the MAGA base, and why are they like a dog on a bone who won't let it go? Philip Bump, the conspiracies that take hold of the right centrally rely on the idea that the elites are up to no good. And he then fleshes that out and says this meets all those criteria. Jeffrey Epstein, the man who encapsulated so many of the characteristics that the conspiratorial right attributes to the elites: inconceivable wealth, access to powerful politicians and celebrities, a privileged lifestyle. He had a private island, accusations of criminal sexual deviancy involving minors. Like, it's got all the elements. That's why they can't let it go. And then relative to Trump, Bump points out, by the time that he announced his presidential candidacy in mid-2015, Epstein was already a felon. The muckraking website Gawker had already published the contents of Epstein's address book. By the way, there's your little black book, including more than a dozen phone numbers for Trump and Mar-a-Lago, where Epstein had once been a regular. The site also published logs from Epstein's private jet. Trump and former President Bill Clinton had been passengers on multiple occasions. This is why this is such an issue for Trump, and takes me to today's poll question. And then finally, Philip Bump says, there are now three fundamental challenges for Donald Trump. The first is he doesn't have the control over conspiratorial thinking that he thinks he has. For the reasons that I just described, this story's not going away with his base, who've been raised, politically speaking, on conspiratorial thinking. The second is he's now president. Presidents could prove a conspiracy theory true if it were, but cannot prove one false since they're part of a system enmeshed in the theory. And then the third and most important reason is that there are unanswerable questions about Trump's relationship with Epstein. Trump was friends with Epstein. Trump and his family appear multiple times in their address book, the only list that's known to exist. Not only can the Justice Department never adequately dismiss a conspiracy theory that centers on government power, Trump is perhaps uniquely powerless to fully dismiss a conspiracy theory with which he is intertwined. And so, probably for the first time since he announced his candidacy in 2015, Trump has found himself on the elite side of the divide against the people. Setting up beautifully today's poll question: will Jeffrey Epstein cause a significant and permanent rupture in Donald Trump's standing with his base? And by the way, when you're voting, don't make it wishful thinking. I saw some early returns on this, and it was very lopsided. And I know there's intense interest, but I couldn't help but think, given the margin that I saw, I mean, come on, this is the guy who could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue, right? Why would we think finally something's going to change that? I think there's a lot of wishful thinking going on in the voting. It's a reasonable question to ask for all the reasons that Jonathan Chait and Philip Bump articulate in two fabulous written pieces. But caution, okay? Caution. Don't vote with your heart. Vote with your head. Is this the break? Is Jeffrey Epstein from the grave going to cause Trump? Or, by the way, are we going to be off to a new shiny object, by afternoon today? It all makes for a great poll question. Go to Smerconish.com. Will Jeffrey Epstein cause a significant and permanent rupture in Donald Trump's standing with his base? Go vote. And for YouTube viewers, thank you for liking and subscribing, and set yourself up for notifications, okay? So that I could pop up at any time. Thank you, gang. Have a wonderful day, everybody.